Welcome to the Mind Machine Podcast for another deep dive. Are you ready for this?
I'm strapped in.
We're going to jump into a what-if tournament,
Ooh, okay.
a no-hold-barred tournament,
Yeah.
gods and mythical figures
All right, I like it.
from all kinds of different traditions, like
Mhm.
who would win in a fight, Thor or Zeus,
Ah, classics.
Odin versus Ra. Our sources lay out this whole bracket, some wild upsets and a champion you might not expect at the end.
I love this kind of thing. What's fascinating to me, though, is it's not just about the biggest muscles. It's not just about the flashiest powers.
Right.
The source material really dives into the strategic side of these fights, how different pantheons even view the concept of power.
Okay, so set the scene for me.
Sure.
What were some of those early matchups that really jumped out at you?
Oh, well, right off the bat, you've got Thor versus Cernunnos,
Wow, okay.
the Norse god of thunder against the Celtic horned god of nature.
Oh, so we're mixing it up right away.
Exactly. And you think raw power, you think Thor, that's got to be the advantage.
Right.
But Cernunnos, the sources emphasize, he's not just some tree hugger. He can command forest spirits. He can manipulate plant life, even control the very terrain of the arena itself. But
Yeah.
there's a catch.
Oh, come on. Don't leave me hanging.
It seems the tournament organizers had some rules in place.
Right.
And those rules actually limited the scope of how much nature magic Cernunnos could really bring to bear. It tilted things in Thor's favor.
So even a god of nature, you're saying, needs a home field advantage.
Precisely. And that theme of unexpected limitations, it pops up again with Maui facing Zeus.
Wait, so Maui,
Maui almost takes down Zeus.
the trickster god, almost took down Zeus,
Almost.
the king of the Olympian gods.
Almost. Maui is all about shape-shifting. He's all about trickery, even bending reality a little bit.
Yeah.
The sources depict him dodging Zeus's thunderbolts, at one point even redirecting them back at him.
Oh, come on, you're doing this again? Come on.
Zeus's experience, his raw power, it ultimately wins out.
Wow, okay. So we've got power versus trickery. What about when you have a clash of completely different fighting styles? Does that come up?
Oh, absolutely. That's where the Vishnu-Talos fight gets interesting.
Oh,
Now, Vishnu, he's the Hindu god of preservation, all about balance, precision, especially with his divine weapon, this spinning disc of pure energy, the Sudarshana chakra.
right. And Talos is the giant bronze automaton, just pure brute force.
The sources really highlight this contrast. Talos is trying to crush Vishnu with just sheer size and strength.
Right.
And Vishnu is weaving around him, using agility, using that chakra to let incredibly precise strikes. It's like watching a martial arts master go up against a bulldozer.
So even in the early rounds, we're already seeing it's not just a brawl.
Nope.
It's strategy, limitations, adaptability, all playing a role.
Absolutely. And as we move into the quarterfinals, all these factors, they become even more crucial.
Okay, I'm ready. You got me hooked. Let's dive into those quarterfinals. First up, it's the matchup I think everybody was waiting for. Thor versus Zeus. The Thunder God Showdown.
Right.
The ultimate Thunder God Showdown of the century.
And it totally lived up to the hype. The sources describe this absolute storm of energy, two masters of lightning, each with their own approach to combat.
So did it just come down to, who could throw a bigger lightning bolt? Just pure power struggle.
That's what I thought going in. But the sources actually really emphasize Zeus's battle experience. He's been in countless conflicts. It gives him an edge in terms of strategy. He weathers Thor's initial assault, and then, using his mastery over storms, he creates openings. Eventually, he lands a decisive blow.
So experience trumps raw power in this case.
At least in this matchup, it's like Thor just came in swinging for the fences, whereas Zeus, he played a more calculated game.
Interesting. Okay. Thor versus Zeus was about experience.
Yeah.
What about Odin versus Ra? You've got the Norse god of wisdom going up against the Egyptian sun god. How does it even work?
Ooh, this one was a battle of cosmic forces. Perfect example of how the tournament organizers really thought outside the box.
Okay.
Now, Ra. He's literally the embodiment of the sun, radiating heat and energy that could melt mountains.
Okay. So how did Odin even stand a chance?
That's where Odin's mastery of the runes comes in. Remember, his power isn't just magic. The sources, they describe it as a deep understanding of these fundamental forces of the universe.
Yeah.
And he uses these runes, these ancient symbols, to manipulate energy. He can even counteract Ra's solar power.
So he kind of hacked the sun with magic symbols.
In a way, yes. And this goes back to what we were saying about different cultures viewing power. For the Norse, knowledge, understanding,
Yeah.
just as powerful as brute force.
Absolutely. Okay, so 2 down in the quarterfinals. Who's next?
All right, next up we have a clash of styles that really had me on the edge of my seat reading the source material.
Okay, hit me.
Vishnu, our precise, balanced fighter, going up against Huitzilopochtli,
Wow.
the Aztec god of war.
I don't even know how to picture this one.
I'm thinking like a calm lake versus a raging volcano.
Yeah, okay, I see it. I see it.
But what's really interesting is how the source material really highlights Huitzilopochtli's reliance on frenzy, almost like a berserker rage.
Interesting.
It makes him incredibly powerful,
Sure.
but also, predictable, and ultimately in the confined space of the arena, uncontrollable. Vishnu, on the other hand, is described as being like a martial arts master. Calm, fluid, always in control.
So, I mean, is this just Vishnu's fighting style is superior?
It's not about superiority, it's about adaptability.
Yeah.
Vishnu's control, it allows him to exploit the weaknesses that come with Huitzilopochtli's chaotic style. He waits for the right moment, then strikes with surgical precision.
It actually makes me think of real-world combat sports. Sometimes the most aggressive fighter isn't the most effective.
Exactly. There's a reason why judo, aikido, those kinds of things focus on redirecting your opponent's energy.
Right.
It's about control. It's not just about brute force.
Right on. All right, one last quarterfinal to go. Who are we looking at for this final spot in the semis?
Oh, we've got a radiant showdown. Amaterasu, the Japanese sun goddess, versus Indra, the Hindu god of thunder and storms. Imagine a sky filled with blinding light and torrential rain.
Oh, I love it. Who emerges victorious from this clash of elements?
The sources highlight Amaterasu's control over light. She doesn't just create it, she manipulates it, she weaponizes it.
Hmm.
And they describe her blinding Indra with a focused burst of light so powerful that it disrupted his ability to control the storms.
So another example of precision, strategy, winning the day.
It does seem to be a recurring theme in this tournament. Brute force is important, but it's rarely enough on its own. You need adaptability, you need strategy, and in Amaterasu's case, a true mastery of your element.
This is shaping up to be one heck of a tournament. We've got Zeus, we've got Odin, we've got Vishnu, we've got Amaterasu, all advancing to the semifinals. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Oh, trust me, the semifinals, that's where things get really interesting. Those quarterfinals for something else. I'm ready for these divine throwdowns. The semifinals, this is where the real titans clash.
No kidding. We've got 4 incredible gods left. Zeus, Odin, Vishnu, and Amaterasu, each one representing a different style of power.
Yeah.
A different approach to the whole concept of divinity. It's making me wonder, did the tournament organizers plan this out? Did they get lucky with these matchups?
That's an interesting thought. Makes you wonder if there's some deeper meaning to these pairings. But let's focus on the fights for now.
Okay, sure.
First up, we've got that rematch.
Oh, here we go.
Zeus versus Odin. It's got the cosmic scales trembling.
Odin already took down Zeus in an earlier round.
Right.
What do the sources say about, Zeus's mindset going into this? I mean, the guy must be furious.
Oh, absolutely. The sources paint Zeus as enraged, determined to prove his dominance. He's the king of the Olympian gods, used to getting his way, losing to Odin once, bad enough, losing twice. Unthinkable.
Yeah, but Odin's no pushover either. He's got wisdom, he's got foresight, he's got those runes that let him manipulate, cosmic forces. So what did the sources say about his strategy going into this rematch?
That's where things get tricky. You'd think Odin's foresight would give him an automatic win,
Right.
knowing what your opponent will do before they even do it. But the sources suggest this reliance on foresight might actually be a weakness.
Wait, hold on. How can knowing the future be a weakness? Help me out here.
Think about it this way. If you're always relying on what you think will happen, you might miss opportunities to adapt, to improvise. And against someone like Zeus, who's a master strategist in his own right, that lack of flexibility, it can be fatal.
So it's like Odin's playing checkers.
Yes.
And Zeus is playing chess.
Exactly. And the sources actually describe the fight in those terms. Odin, he tries to control the flow of battle based on his visions. But Zeus, he's constantly shifting tactics, keeping Odin off balance. It's this battle of wits and power with lightning bolts and runes flying everywhere.
So how does this epic rematch play out? Does Zeus get to, avenge his earlier defeat?
He comes close. But ultimately, Odin's mastery of the runes, it proves to be too much for him. The sources describe Odin using a specific rune combination to create a trap for Zeus's lightning. Channels the energy away, leaves Zeus vulnerable, and then strikes with his spear Gungnir, which, according to Norse mythology, never misses its target.
Wow. So Odin takes down Zeus again. Talk about a humbling experience for the king of the gods. But you know what really stands out to me?
What's that?
It's like Odin's victory. It really reinforces this idea. Knowledge and strategy can triumph even over raw power.
It's a recurring theme in this tournament for sure, but it's especially potent in this matchup because, I mean, Zeus is the embodiment of raw power, and to see him defeated by Odin, who's physically much less imposing, it really drives home that point that there's more to strength than just like muscles and lightning bolts.
It's a good lesson for all of us, I think. Sometimes the smartest guy in the room is also the strongest.
Absolutely. But now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about that other semifinal match. Vishnu, the embodiment of cosmic harmony, going up against Amaterasu, the radiant sun goddess. This one is a bit harder to visualize.
Yeah, it's not as straightforward as two thunder gods just throwing lightning at each other.
Yeah.
How do the sources even begin to describe this fight?
They use terms like celestial ballet and a dance of light and order. It's less about brute force. It's more about these subtle manipulations of cosmic energy. You know Amaterasu, she's all about radiating light and warmth. Vishnu, he's about maintaining balance, ensuring that the universe functions as it should. It's almost like watching these two opposing forces of nature trying to, like, find harmony with each other.
Okay, I'm getting a sense of the overall vibe, but how does that translate into, like, an actual fight? Who throws the first punch?
It's not so much about punches as it is about control. The sources describe them like countering each other's moves. Amaterasu tries to overwhelm Vishnu with pure radiance, but he absorbs and redirects that energy, using it to bolster his own defenses. Vishnu, in turn, tries to disrupt the flow of Amaterasu's power, but she adapts, shifting her radiance to different forms, keeping him off balance.
So more like a chess match than a brawl.
Exactly. And this back and forth, it goes on for a while. It's a battle of attrition, each god testing the limits of the other's power. But eventually, Vishnu, he manages to gain a slight advantage. He exploits a momentary lapse in Amaterasu's control. Using his agility and the precision of his Sudarshana chakra, he lands a decisive blow.
So is this a case where Vishnu's cosmic awareness, his understanding of the universe's workings, gives him the edge?
That's what the sources seem to suggest. Vishnu's power is about maintaining cosmic order. And that includes understanding the weaknesses inherent in even the most powerful beings. Amaterasu is incredibly powerful, no doubt, but her power is more focused, more about radiance and warmth. Vishnu's power is more diffuse, more adaptable.
So he's like the ultimate multitasker, able to handle anything the universe throws at him.
That's a great way to put it. And that adaptability, that ability to see the bigger picture, that's ultimately what allows him to defeat Amaterasu. He understands that sometimes the most effective way to win a fight is to not fight at all. It's to guide the flow of events towards a more harmonious outcome.
This is heavy stuff. We're talking about gods fighting.
Yeah.
We're also talking about cosmic balance, strategy, and the nature of power itself. It makes you wonder what that final showdown between Vishnu and Odin will be like.
I can't wait to break it down. The wisdom of Odin, the guy who defeated the king of the gods not once but twice, clashing with the cosmic harmony of Vishnu, who overcame both brute force and radiant energy. It's a matchup for the ages.
All right, listener, we're back, and my mind is still reeling from those semifinals. It's down to the ultimate showdown. Vishnu, the embodiment of cosmic harmony, versus Odin, the master strategist with his runes and foresight. What a matchup.
It's almost poetic, isn't it? You have these two wildly different approaches to power, both proving themselves against incredible odds. It does make you wonder, was this final battle destined from the very beginning?
Okay, before we get too existential, let's go back to the source material. How do they actually describe this clash between Vishnu and Odin?
Well, unlike those explosive battles we saw in the earlier rounds, this one is depicted as a much more subtle affair. The sources talk about this weaving of cosmic energies, a clash of wills that kind of transcends the physical realm.
Okay.
Remember, Odin's power, it's rooted in knowledge. It's rooted in understanding this interconnectedness of the universe. And Vishnu's power is about maintaining that interconnectedness, ensuring everything flows as it should.
So it's less about punches and lightning bolts and more about, like, manipulating the very fabric of reality.
Exactly. The sources describe Odin using his runes to try and predict Vishnu's moves, to disrupt that flow of his cosmic energy. But Vishnu, as the embodiment of balance, is able to adapt, to counter Odin's manipulations with his own subtle shifts in the cosmic order.
It sounds almost like a stalemate,
Mm.
like an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object.
Mm.
But someone has to win, right?
Oh, there's definitely a winner. But the sources are a bit vague on the specifics of how it all goes down. They talk about this point where Odin's foresight, it seems to falter. where the runes offer him this glimpse of the future that's constantly shifting, impossible to grasp, and in that moment of uncertainty, Vishnu's able to seize the advantage.
So not a knockout punch, more
No.
like a subtle victory.
It's described as this gradual shift in the balance of power. Vishnu doesn't defeat Odin through brute force, but by subtly realigning those cosmic forces that Odin himself is trying to manipulate. It's almost like a judo master, using his opponent's momentum against them.
That's a really fascinating way to describe it. So Vishnu wins, which I guess shouldn't be that surprising considering his whole deal is like maintaining cosmic order. But what's the deeper meaning here? What does this victory tell us about the nature of power itself?
I think it goes back to what we've been talking about throughout this entire deep dive. Brute force, while impressive, has its limits. Knowledge and strategy, they can be incredibly powerful, but they can also lead to rigidity, this inability to adapt when the unexpected happens. True power, the sources seem to suggest, lies in understanding those underlying forces that govern reality and working in harmony with them.
So it's not about dominating the universe. It's more about being a part of it, understanding its rhythms and flows.
Exactly. And that's why Vishnu's victory makes so much sense. He embodies that interconnectedness, that understanding that everything is a part of a larger whole. He's not trying to impose his will on the universe. He's trying to guide it, to nurture it, to ensure that it continues to thrive.
Wow, that's a pretty heavy takeaway from a tournament of gods beating each other up. But it's really making me think about how we view power in our own lives. Do we try and force things to go our way? Or do we try and work with the flow to understand the bigger picture?
That's a great question, and I think that's one that each listener needs to answer for themselves. But this whole tournament, this exploration of different pantheons and their approach to power, it's definitely given me a new perspective on things.
Me too. It's been a wild ride. From Thor's thunderbolts to Odin's runes to Vishnu's cosmic awareness. And you know what? I'm not even sure who I was rooting for in the end. I was just so fascinated by the whole spectacle, by the different ways that power can manifest itself.
That's the beauty of these what-if scenarios, right? They push us to think outside the box, to question our assumptions, and to appreciate that diversity of thought and belief that exists in the world.
Absolutely.